opening day tomorrow. With that, the king of baseball, DraftKings host Baseball is Dead is the podcast at Jared_Carrabis on Twitter, and he joins us. And I'm going to start, you know what? Let's just get the obligatory rules changes out of the way as we say, first off, hi, Jared. Hope to talk to you throughout the season.
Hey.
And congrats on the success. Rules changes. What do you like? What don't you like?
So I think people are making too much out of the pitch clock already. I'm someone that I'm a huge baseball nerd, as you pointed out. I watch minor league baseball. Not only am I sitting there watching Major League Baseball, I watch minor league baseball, and I talk to some of these guys, and they're like, "This is not something that's going to be a huge impact going forth." By the time we get to the All-Star break, I have the feeling that we're going to be talking more about the banning of defensive shifts. That might be a stronger narrative by the midway point, because you're going to be talking about comparing guys' numbers from last year to this year. Who's someone that is now benefiting from hitting balls hard on the ground, and that the batting average is going up, the on-base percentage is going up. I don't think that there's anything that I dislike, but I do think that our focus is not where it needs to be.
I tell you what, Jared, I completely agree with you on the pitch clock. I think by the end of the first month, you will not see too many situations where a guy gets called for a strike or a pitcher gets called for a ball. It might happen from time to time, but I am complete agreement with you that it really just disappears. Real quickly, we were just breaking down pennants, divisions, and potential MVPs, Cy Youngs. Anything in that hodgepodge of options that really stands out to you that maybe you can kind of add into the mix that people can bet out there?
Yeah, so I'm all over Alek Manoah for American League Cy Young Award this year. I was actually very surprised to see that Jacob deGrom was the favorite, given his injury history and that he's already kind of had the injury bug a little bit in spring training. So if you're looking for a value play, I don't know what you've got. You got plus 800 here for Alek Manoah. I think it's a great pick. He's the opening day starter for the Toronto Blue Jays. I actually have the Blue Jays going to the World Series. I have the Toronto Blue Jays taking a step forward. The Yankees kind of regressing. They've already had major injuries. So it's kind of just, the Yankees are coming down. The Blue Jays are coming up. And he's going to be at the forefront of that. So, and again, a lot of people want to talk about the guy's weight. Mass equals gas, baby. All that says to me is that you're going to get a guy in 200 innings. No one talks about 200 innings anymore. But when you're in the Cy Young conversation, you need to be able to hold up over 162. And he's certainly built that way, and I mean that as a compliment.
Carrabis here on Sharp Money. Let's kind of set the table as far as storylines for the year. So obviously the humidors were in full effect last year. You saw a 500 drop in home runs. You saw, I think, 1,000 drop from 2019, Carrabis. So we had a drop off in home runs. I would expect that to continue with the humidors. How about the balanced schedule? In division, usually you go 19 against rivals. Going to go 13 here. Do you like this?
As a Red Sox fan, I love this because they played horribly against their own division. But I think that they were on like a 95 win pace against everyone else in the league. So it's going to be case by case. I think when you look at any team in the American League East or the NL East, both the Eastern divisions, very, very tough to end up having to look at your schedule and see that you're playing all these teams, very not necessarily top heavy divisions. You've got the NL West is super top heavy. The NL Central, there's nothing special going on in the NL Central. Now I'm more curious to see who the top dogs are going to be once you're having to play everyone in a more balanced schedule. So that probably bodes well for some of the teams that not necessarily need to win the division, but hope to win the division in both Eastern divisions.
Yeah, I like your point about teams having to be better outside the division. When you get to beat up on those bottom feeders, maybe you're not as good as people perceive you to be. Want to go quickly in terms of the division races right now. Which one for you is probably the most competitive from a betting standpoint? Potentially two teams, third team that could win a division that you look at and say, hey, there's a dog here. Like, I love your Toronto pick, right? You obviously said they're going to win the pennant, so I'm assuming you have them winning the division as well. But is there another team that maybe is a plus money price that could win a division that others are not looking at?
I was shocked to see that the Padres are not the favorite in the NL West. I did not see that going in. Put that as respect on the Dodgers. They've been there. They've done that. They deserve the recognition. But, if the Padres are a dog, get me in on that in the NL West. In the NL East, I think that losing Edwin Diaz is a big blow for the Mets. Is that the difference of 4 or 5 wins? It could be. It depends on who's next guy up, who's next man up to be able to take over for Edwin Diaz. I do have the Atlanta Braves as the winningest team in baseball. So if they're the winningest team in baseball, they're going to be the top dogs in that division. And it could be a 3-team playoff team out of the NL East. So if you're talking about the Philadelphia Phillies getting back to October, you lost Rhys Hoskins presumably for the whole year. You have Bryce Harper, who might be down for most of the first half. But you kind of look at the Philadelphia Phillies as a dog where it's like, well, we look at the numbers after they fired Joe Girardi. They were on a 95 win pace after that. And they also dealt with no Bryce Harper for 6 weeks of that. So they've kind of been there and done that. They're battle tested. They got to the World Series. So the Phillies would be a nice dog to it. Maybe not to pick to win the division, but to make the playoffs, I like that pick.
Jared Carrabis here, Sharp Money, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Baseball is Dead is the podcast. If you like baseball, I assure you, you're going to love the podcast. You can follow Jared on Twitter at Jared_Carrabis. Opening day traditions. It's a great logo. Can we throw the logo up? That is, who designed that? That's tremendous.
So actually what we're doing right now, I'm building a podcast studio in my house, and I have a graffiti artist coming to the house to, we've got black brick lining the walls, and he's going to spray paint the Baseball is Dead logo on the wall. It's going to look pretty cool.
Can we juxtapose the difference between two dudes that are on remote? You're getting professional spray painters. I'm sitting in front of a wood wall like I'm at a steakhouse. Okay, that's the difference as far as cachet with Meagher and Carrabis. Back to baseball. I want to have a little fun and sprinkle some fun into this as well, as far as, and we'll get to predictions because I think we're going to steal you for another segment coming up here in a couple of minutes. Obviously, we all know you're a huge Red Sox fan. Traditions for opening day. I grew up outside of Detroit, a Tigers fans. Me and my boys would always go down to Detroit for opening day. Any traditions for you?
Yeah, so we had this debate on the podcast this morning. I posed the question to the panel, should opening day be a holiday? And I am vehemently against it. No, it should not be, because part of the fun about opening day is calling out of work, getting out of class, whatever obligations that you have. I don't want people that don't like baseball getting to reap the benefits of our great game. Absolutely not. Come up with the excuse, find the babysitter, do what you got to do. That's part of the tradition of opening day, is the excuse making. And because, if we're talking about these day games, I'm going to be there. I think I'll be there at like 11 a.m. tomorrow. So I'll be there all day long. If it is home, because Boston, it gets cold around this time of the year. We don't always have opening day at Fenway, but when it is, I'll be there.
So will everybody else. The one thing you can say about Red Sox fans, despite some of their struggles last year, there's great attendance there. In terms of the acquisitions this offseason, which team impressed you the most and is a real threat? Because we've been kind of breaking down some of these teams. For me, I know you guys hated losing Xander, and now obviously J.D. Martinez has gotten older, so Rafael Devers is kind of a standalone in that lineup. They traded Betts away a couple of years ago. But I thought the acquisition by the Padres with that lineup, with a consistent 300 hitter, 20 homer guy, 90 RBI kind of guy, 80 RBI guy in Xander, is a tremendous acquisition for them.
Yeah, no, it was huge. And not just that, the Padres extending the guys that were already there. And I can tell you from firsthand experience dealing with Xander Bogaerts last year, where you have essentially the face of your franchise, I hate to use the word, moping around all year because he doesn't know what his future is going to be. You want to be in one place. You don't know if you're going to be there. And then ultimately you're not there. You end up somewhere else. The Padres went out and avoided that situation with Manny Machado. Manny Machado was an impending free agent at the end of the year. They get an extension done with him. They end up giving $280 million to Xander Bogaerts. They give the extension to Yu Darvish. And amongst all of that, they're still out here saying, hey, we want to pay Juan Soto. Hey, at the end of the year, we're going to be in the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes. What the Padres owner is telling you is, hey, I might be at the end of the line here in my life, so I'm just dumping boatloads of cash on all these players so that when this is the roster and they're all 45 years old, not going to be my problem.
That's hilarious you say that. Mike Ilitch, Mr. I, when he was dying late in his life, he owned the Red Wings and the Tigers. but he cared mostly about the Tigers. As a matter of fact, Mike Ilitch was a minor league baseball player. So the reason we're celebrating Miguel Cabrera on his last season remember, he got a 10-year deal. The reason we're celebrating that 10-year deal is because Mr. I was like, let's kitchen sink this. We're going all in with the Tigers. And with Leland, they had wonderful runs. Okay, we're going to have Jared come back with us. Last question before the break. On the East Coast, the Red Sox have wrapped. You get on your MLB package, and you're looking for a West Coast team to watch for fun. Who is it, and why is it the Diamondbacks?
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I mean the Diamondbacks, so they're one of those teams. So obviously the first name that comes to mind is Corbin Carroll. Like this is an organization right now that no one throws into the mix. Is like the people love talking about the Orioles because they were ahead of schedule. They have Adley Rutschman. Gunnar Henderson's going to be a favorite for the Rookie of the Year in the American League this year. But in the National League, you kind of have the somewhat behind schedule but right on time Arizona Diamondbacks. But the difference between the Diamondbacks and the Orioles is that they are not afraid to supplement that young core with some veteran presence, and they're going to spend some money. Zach Greinke, big money. Madison Bumgarner, big money. So I'm interested to see once the Diamondbacks get to that level of we're ready to compete, what do they supplement that with?
Season win totals. He's a pro. He hit the break. We're back with Carrabis, DraftKings. Baseball is dead is the pod. Okay, we got you back here on Sharp Money. Amal Shah, Dustin Sweetelson. I'm Patrick Meagher. Jared Carrabis joins us. DraftKings. Mr. Baseball. Baseball is Dead podcast. Let's go ahead. I love the logo. I can't get enough of the color scheme, everything about it. That's going to be in his home studio. You see it right there. Baseball is Dead with the skull and the baseball bat. It's kind of ominous. Okay. We were doing season win totals, and my partner said A's under 60.5. On what planet do the A's win 61 games? So it's a tremendous number. We're going to go under as a show as well. I'm going to steal that from them all. And won't it be lit when this team is in Vegas?
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of coming soon. Yeah, it feels like there's something happening there where we may find out sooner rather than later on the future of that organization.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. I think the move's going to come pretty quickly. New York Yankees, a team we haven't talked about a ton. Like the acquisition of Rodon, he's dealing with an injury. I think Garrett Cole is a top 10 pitcher. I don't see him the same way other people do. What do you like about the Yankees? What do you potentially dislike? Because I know you have Toronto winning the East.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of injury concerns there that have already reared their heads with Severino. You have the injury with Rodon. And then you have Garrett Cole, who's been the model of consistency. I mean, the guy is super durable, but he's not getting any younger. And Nestor Cortez, for me, it's like, I don't want to call him fluky, but it's almost like he's like a gimmicky pitcher where he messes with guys' timing, and he came out of nowhere last year. Still a good pitcher, a guy that you obviously want to have on your team, but then he had the hamstring issue. Who knows if that's to get out of the World Baseball Classic with a legitimate excuse, or if there really is something bothering him. So the injuries to the rotation, that is very concerning to me. You do have some depth there, like a guy like Clark Schmidt who could step in, but at the end of the day, you're looking at the prototypical Yankee formula, which is we have to score 8 if we want to win, and that's not a good spot to be in.
I think it was 44 wins for the Tigers years back? Amal, you and I were discussing it. Alan Trammell was the manager.
43 and 119.
43 and 119. The reason, and Alan Trammell was the skip, so it was brutal because that was my favorite player growing up. He and Sweet Lou. Shout out to Lou Whitaker, who should be in the Hall of Fame. By the way, the reason I bring it up is a 43-win team. I know we don't expect Oakland, Jared, to win 43 games, but are they all-time bad?
They could be all-time bad. I remember those Detroit Tiger teams that were just abysmal. What was that? The 2003 Tigers that were the worst?
It was 03, correct.
Yeah, that was a tough season in Detroit. But this Oakland A's team, it's sad because of where they were just a few years ago, 2018, 2019. You played in the wild card game in the Bronx against the Yankees. You've got platinum gloves, not just gold gloves. The defensive ability in that infield was outstanding, and now they're just there. Like it's sad. I mean, because I have because of my relationship with Dallas, my co-host on the podcast, he's a former player of the A's, and now he's the broadcaster of the A's. So I kind of pay attention to that team. They have a soft spot in my heart because I know how much they mean to him. And I see how passionate the fans are. They want a reason to come to the ballpark. Like, you look at some of the attendance numbers and it's just absolutely dreadful. You have minor league teams that are outdrawing the Oakland A's. Yeah, I do think that there's a chance that they're all-time bad this year. They were all-time bad last year, and they didn't get any better. They probably got worse. So, yeah, hang with them, Dallas, because he's going to be in the booth for like 155 of those things.
Yikes.
Yeah. Dallas Braden, who Jared is referring to there, pitched a perfect game for the A's. The Angels have two of the best players in baseball. Aside from Ohtani and Trout, is there anything you like about this team? Are they a viable candidate? We talked about them potentially being a wild card team earlier. Is this a team that what do you like about them? What do you dislike about them?
Yeah, so I mean, I have them making the playoffs, and I don't know how much of that in the back of my brain is just wishful thinking. You know, if I'm Vince McMahon and I'm booking the MLB season, what's going to be a great storyline? Well, a lot of people have the Angels being bad per usual and trading Shohei Ohtani. Where does he go? Well, what if the Angels are in it? What if the Angels make the playoffs? And then in free agency, does that maybe lure Shohei back to Anaheim? I don't think that that's going to be the case. He's obviously going to go to the top bidder, whatever. But I mean, I like Reed Detmers through the no-hitter. Rendon, I don't know what to expect from him. He's getting paid a lot of money to not really have performed at the level that the Angels would have expected him to. He's kind of in the same conversation as like a Steven Strasburg, where it's like, yeah, this guy has performed at a high level, but it's been a while, and you're still making a large amount of money to contribute this year. What are you going to do this year? But yeah, I think that, you know, you mix in a guy like Jared Walsh. The offense is sneaky much better. I feel like too many people look at the Angels and the first thing we think of is Shohei Ohtani and we think of Mike Trout, but their offense is built on more than just those two guys.
The WBC was tremendous. Okay. I know you loved it. You went nuts on your podcast about it. It's 42 games, not 162. I get it. It's national pride on the line, not getting paid for a team. But is there anything we can do? The vibes were awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the World Baseball Classic was I was so confused at why we were waging this war, like baseball fans against baseball fans, the baseball fans that hated it. If you're a Mets fan, I get it. I'll give you a written slip. It's an excuse. You have a permission slip to complain about the World Baseball Classic. But these other baseball fans that had an issue with the tournament, what are we doing here? It was super exciting. How could you watch the World Baseball Classic and then go back to spring training? I couldn't. I was down in Fort Myers. I was in the booth. I was there for like the first 2 weeks of spring training. I was super excited. You're getting to see the pitch clock for the first time. That's all intriguing to me. But then you start watching the World Baseball Classic, and how am I supposed to go from that adrenaline rush to spring training baseball? Especially like the last couple of weeks of spring training baseball when everyone's just, you know, tinkering and they're refining their skill. It's like, what are we doing here? Of course, the World Baseball Classic was absolutely amazing. The next one's going to be better. Mike Trout already committed to it, and Shohei Ohtani.
You're telling me the games in Port St. Lucie are not the same between the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico playing in Miami?
Crazy. The environments were crazy.
Yeah, it was absolutely electric.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Patrick. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say to Jared, so I worked for years and years with Chris Russo, Mad Dog. I saw you tweeted at him. Dude, he's just a contrarian. Yeah. He's an old school guy. He loves baseball. He's a ride or die for the sport. Trust me, he's harmless. He just goes off on random tangents. And for those that don't have context, Russo didn't like the WBC. He's a clown when it comes to some of that stuff. He's a great guy. Anyhow, overrated team. You can pick a league. I don't care. I think the Braves are the best team in baseball. The Dodgers are actually a short price. They're resetting the books. Maybe they're a little overrated. Can you pick a team that you say would overrated coming into 2023?
Oh, overrated coming into 2023.
The Blue Jays you love. The Padres are getting a lot of heat. The Astros are 6-1. The Yankees are 7.5-1. They continue to fail in the postseason.
Probably
the Phillies are getting love.
It's probably the Yankees.
Okay.
Yeah. Are we going to go underrated as well after this?
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
the Yankees are overrated. I think that they're completely overrated. I mean, you look at their line. Aaron Hicks is out there. Like, what are we doing there? Thank God they have Anthony Volpe. They finally, they called that dude up. He's 21 years old. That's the correct call. But Josh Donaldson, the corpse of Josh Donaldson, who's a good friend of mine, but I would say that to his face. You're washed up. But super, just like overrated. The team's overrated. As an underrated team, can we talk about the Seattle Mariners? Like,
Go
that
ahead, you got a minute and a half.
Is
lay it out.
Castillo, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby. Those are not household. Castillo is, but like Logan Gilbert and George Kirby are not household names. But those are two guys that it's all about getting in, right? You punch your ticket to the postseason. It just so happens that the Seattle Mariners drew the Houston Astros in that game. So it's like if you don't have the Astros as your first object in the way. I love the Seattle Mariners in a best of 7. If there's a way that they can get to that point, they stack up just about as good as anyone else from a pitching standpoint, and they've got a really good bullpen. So not enough people are talking about the Seattle Mariners and their chance to actually do some damage this year.
Love 19-1. Julio Rodriguez, does he have a nickname, by the way?
I think it's just J-Rod, which is lame. We got to figure out something else.
We do, because I feel like, haven't we had 12 J-Rods, Amal? I feel like J-Rod's been done before.
Thank God his first name doesn't start with A.
There'd be an issue. Well, listen, Jared, great stuff. The pod is awesome with you and Dallas Braden. Congratulations on the success. Like I said, make sure you download the podcast. I can't wait to see the studio set up with the spray paint. Baseball is Dead is the name of the pod. You can follow Jared on Twitter at Jared Carrabis, _. We got to get rid of the underscore. Can we get somebody to help us out? You're too big of a name. Jared _Carrabis. We'll talk to you during the season. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.